Hi, everybody. I thought what I would do is to save us some time in lectures is give you a very brief overview of exam one in terms of the structure and the types of questions I ask. In class, what I will do on Thursday is give you an overview of the study guide, and I may also do that in a video as well. So let's just talk about the exam next week, which of course is on Tuesday in class at 11 a.m. As I noted in an email to you, I will be in Tonga, but my graduate students will be in there proctoring the exam. So the way in which I approach exams, I know there's a lot of information, right? And there's a lot of details, and I try and set questions that get you to think rather than just rely on rote memory. There are some questions for sure with some important data points and statistics, and I'll give you an example of that in just a minute. So yeah, certain facts are important. I expect you to know what the population of the world is. I expect you to know what the replacement fertility rate is, but so is context, right? What does it mean when a total fertility rate is 3.45, for example, versus 1.9? The exam itself is just multiple choice. There are 50 questions. You have plenty of time to do it. I set one question per minute. Some will take a little longer. Some will be much faster than that. And I try and set exams that are very clear in your choices. So, for example, if I'm asking you, what the population of the United States is, I'll never give you 5 choices that are within just a few 100,000 of each other. I'll give you a pretty broad choice where there is an absolute answer. So again, several multiple choice. They're all multiple choice, but within that multiple choice, there are questions. There are graphs to interpret, a calculation or two. You'll need a calculator for the exam, so please bring that. And don't panic on this one, but there will be a table of data and a few questions on that data. You haven't seen the data, but we've covered all of the material in class, and it relates to population. So I set 4 types of exam questions, right? One is knowledge-based question, which involves the recall of information, definitions, dates, events, directions, and so on. I'll give you an example of each one of these. One is comprehension, the interpretation of information. One involves application. So how do we use information to solve problems? And again, I'll show you an example of that. And then I'll ask some analytical type questions. How do you break down the material into the constituent parts? So here's an example of a knowledge-based question, right? It would be about what % of the world's population live in acute poverty. Now, we haven't talked specifically about this, so don't panic if this doesn't jump to mind. But if this was a question on acute poverty, however that's defined, then there would be one answer, and that would be about 20% of the world lives in acute poverty, right? If that was the correct answer. So that's a knowledge-based question, and there are several of those, and I've gone through the lectures and made comments in class. This is an important, you will need to know this, and so on. There's comprehension type questions, right? Here's a comprehension type question to understand and comprehend what the concept is. So the question would be, utilitarian conservationists tend to believe that resources should be saved because they're important. A, as a home for wildlife, B, in the conservation of aesthetic values, C, to our understanding of the biosphere, D, for a strong economic system, and E, to be used by all living things. So it's a comprehension question because you need to understand what utilitarian conservationism is. Remember, that is pragmatic resource conservation, the foundation of Roosevelt and Pinchot's philosophy that resources should be used for the greater good for the here and now. The only realistic answer there is D, for a strong economic system. So that's what a comprehension question looks like. Analysis. So here's a curve of population over time, and the question might be, analyze this plot in terms of doubling time. So the doubling time here is constant, unpredictable, increasing, decreasing, or none of the above. Be careful when you see questions like this. Don't just look at the graph and say, well, the slope's going down, it must be decreasing. If the population is decreasing over time, then the doubling time is continually increasing. It's taking longer and longer for that population to double. And then finally, an application type question. You're applying an equation here. If the world growth rate was 10%, the population would double every how many years? Remember, the doubling time is the rule of 70. So you would take 70 divided by 10%, or 7 divided by 0.1, and the doubling time there would be 7. So those are the types of questions that I ask. I won't go into the book and just pull out a whole series of very specific facts on that. Let your lecture material drive the preparation. I'll talk a little bit more in class about the study guide and the things that I expect there. And then just finally, remember, I will make sure that the quizzes are open for 24 hours prior to the exam. So you'll be able to go in and review the quiz material on that. All right, thanks and good luck.